In the middle of World War II, the world knew Hedy Lamarr as one of Hollywood's most beautiful actresses. Her face appeared on movie posters. Her name filled newspapers. Millions admired her beauty, but very few knew her secret. Behind the glamorous image was one of the most brilliant minds of her generation. As Nazi submarines threatened Allied ships across the Atlantic, military engineers faced a dangerous problem. Radio-controlled torpedoes could change the course of the war, but enemy forces could easily jam their signals. Without secure communication, the technology was nearly useless. Then an unlikely inventor stepped forward, a Hollywood actress. Together with composer George Antheil, Hedy developed a revolutionary idea, a communication system that constantly changed radio frequencies. The concept was called frequency hopping. It could prevent enemies from intercepting or blocking signals. At first, the military ignored her. Many officers struggled to believe that an actress could contribute to wartime technology. Her invention was set aside, and her contribution was forgotten. But decades later, engineers rediscovered her idea. Today, the technology behind Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and secure military communications can all trace part of their origins back to Hedy Lamarr's groundbreaking work. How did a Hollywood star become an inventor? Why was her contribution ignored for so many years? And how did one woman's forgotten idea help shape the modern world? This is the incredible true story of Hedy Lamarr, the actress who helped invent the future. Long before her ideas helped shape modern wireless technology, before engineers recognized her brilliance, and before the world knew her as a Hollywood legend, Hedy Lamarr was a curious young girl growing up in Austria. She was born as Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler in Vienna on November 9, 1914. Vienna was one of Europe's great cultural capitals. Music filled the streets. Artists and intellectuals gathered in cafes. New ideas flourished. From an early age, Hedy showed an unusual curiosity about how things worked. Her father, Emil Kiesler, encouraged her interest. During long walks through the city, he explained how machines operated, how printing presses worked, how trains moved across great distances, how technology was changing the modern world. Young Hedy listened carefully. She asked endless questions. She loved solving problems, and she developed a fascination with science and invention. But society expected something different from young women at the time. People noticed Hedy's beauty long before they recognized her intelligence. As a teenager, she began studying acting. Her striking appearance quickly opened doors in European cinema. By the early 1930s, she was appearing in films across Austria and Germany. Her fame grew rapidly, yet success brought unexpected challenges. In 1933, at just 18 years old, Hedy starred in the controversial film Ecstasy. The movie attracted international attention. Suddenly, she became famous throughout Europe, but the public focused almost entirely on her appearance. Few people cared about her sharp mind or her passion for science. Soon after, Hedy married Friedrich Mandl, a wealthy Austrian arms manufacturer with connections to powerful political figures. At first, the marriage seemed glamorous. Luxury homes, elegant parties, influential guests. But behind closed doors, life became increasingly difficult. Mandl was controlling and possessive. He discouraged Hedy from continuing her acting career. He closely monitored her movements. She often felt trapped. Yet during business dinners and meetings, Hedy listened carefully. Military officials discussed weapon systems. Engineers talked about communication technology. Experts debated the future of warfare. Without realizing it, she was receiving an education few civilians ever experienced. She learned about radio guidance systems, military engineering, and the growing threat of conflict across Europe. As Adolf Hitler expanded Nazi influence throughout the continent, the political situation became more dangerous. Austria stood at the center of rising tensions. Hedy understood that her future was uncertain. Determined to reclaim her independence, she made a bold decision. She escaped, leaving behind her marriage, her comfortable lifestyle, and the world she had known. She traveled first to London. There, her life changed forever. In 1937, she met Louis B. Mayer, the head of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios. He saw star potential immediately. He offered her a contract in Hollywood and gave her a new name, Hedy Lamarr. Soon, she boarded a ship bound for America. As the ocean stretched behind her, she left one life behind and stepped into another. Hollywood welcomed her as a glamorous movie star. Newspapers called her the most beautiful woman in the world. Movie audiences admired her elegance. Directors wanted her on screen. But no one suspected that behind the fame, behind the red carpets and flashing cameras, was a woman whose ideas would one day help transform global communication. As war spread across Europe, Hedy watched with growing concern. She had escaped the continent, but she could not ignore what was happening there. She wanted to help. She wanted to do more than entertain audiences. And soon, she would begin working on an idea that could change history. As Nazi submarines attacked Allied ships across the Atlantic, Hedy Lamarr became obsessed with a dangerous question. How could military signals be protected from enemy interference? The answer would come from an unexpected partnership, a Hollywood actress and an avant-garde composer. As World War II intensified, the Atlantic Ocean became one of the most dangerous places on Earth. German U-boats hunted Allied ships relentlessly. Supply lines were under constant attack. Every sunken vessel meant fewer weapons, less food, and fewer resources reaching Europe. Military leaders searched desperately for new solutions. One idea showed great promise: radio-controlled torpedoes. These weapons could be guided remotely toward enemy targets. In theory, they could revolutionize naval warfare. But there was a serious problem. Enemy forces could easily intercept or jam the radio signals controlling the torpedoes. A single disruption could send a weapon off course. Without secure communication, the technology was almost useless. Thousands of miles away in Hollywood, Hedy Lamarr followed the war closely. Although she had become one of America's biggest movie stars, her thoughts often returned to Europe. She worried about the people she had left behind. She wanted to contribute, not as an actress, but as an inventor. Unlike many people around her, Hedy understood military technology. She remembered the conversations she had overheard during her first marriage. Arms dealers, military officials, engineers. She had listened carefully. Now those memories gave her a unique perspective. She began thinking about the torpedo problem. How could radio signals be protected from interference? How could communication remain secure? The answer came from an unexpected source: music. In 1940, Hedy met George Antheil, an avant-garde composer known for his experimental work with synchronized player pianos. At first glance, the actress and the composer seemed an unlikely team, but both shared a passion for innovation. Together, they explored a radical idea. What if a radio signal constantly changed frequencies? If the transmitter and receiver switched channels at exactly the same time, an enemy would struggle to intercept or block the communication. The signal would appear to jump unpredictably. This concept became known as frequency hopping, inspired by the synchronized rolls used in player pianos. Hedy and George designed a system that could shift between multiple radio frequencies in perfect coordination. The idea was revolutionary. Instead of relying on one vulnerable signal, communication would constantly move. making jamming nearly impossible. In 1941, they submitted their design to the United States government. The following year, they received a patent for their invention. Patent number 2,292,387. It was officially called a secret communication system. Hedy offered the technology to the U.S. Navy without seeking financial reward. She simply wanted to help the war effort. But the response was disappointing. Military officials struggled to take the idea seriously. Some doubted that an actress could contribute meaningful technological solutions. Others believed the system was too complicated to implement. The invention was set aside. Instead of using her technical skills, the government encouraged Hedy to support the war by selling war bonds. And she did. Using her celebrity status, she helped raise millions of dollars for the Allied cause. But privately, she remained frustrated. She knew her invention had potential, yet few people recognized her work. As the war continued, the patent expired. Years passed. Hollywood remained focused on her beauty. The world admired the actress, but ignored the inventor. Still, the idea she had developed refused to disappear, because, decades later, engineers would rediscover frequency hopping, and the technology that once sat forgotten in a government file would help shape the modern world. The military ignored Hedy Lamarr's invention, but history wasn't finished with her idea. Years later, engineers rediscovered the forgotten patent, and suddenly, a Hollywood actress became one of the pioneers of modern communication. How did a rejected wartime invention help create Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS? When World War II ended, Hedy Lamarr's invention seemed destined to disappear. The patent for her secret communication system sat quietly in government archives. Unused. Forgotten. Ignored. The military had moved on. Hollywood had moved on. And the world continued to see Hedy as only one thing. A movie star. Few people knew she was also an inventor. Even fewer understood the significance of her idea. As the years passed, technology continued to evolve. The Cold War began. Military communication systems became more important than ever. Engineers searched for ways to send secure signals without interference. And, eventually, someone rediscovered Hedy Lamarr's forgotten patent. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the U.S. military began experimenting with frequency hopping technology. Advances in electronics had finally made the system practical. What seemed impossible during World War II was now achievable. The idea that Hedy and George Antheil had imagined years earlier suddenly made sense. Secure communication systems based on frequency hopping began appearing in military applications. Ships, aircraft, satellites, encrypted communications. The technology quietly became part of modern defense systems. Yet once again, few people knew where the original idea had come from. Hedy received no financial reward, no public recognition, and no credit for helping create a technology that was changing the world. Meanwhile, her Hollywood career began to fade. New stars emerged. The film industry changed. The woman once called the most beautiful woman in the world gradually disappeared from the spotlight. But her invention was only beginning its journey. During the 1970s and 1980s, engineers expanded upon the principles of frequency hopping. Researchers discovered that the same concept could be used far beyond military operations. Wireless communication, digital networks, secure data transmission. The possibilities seemed endless. Then came the technological revolution of the 1990s. Mobile devices became more common. Computers connected through wireless networks. Bluetooth technology emerged. GPS systems expanded. Wi-Fi transformed how people communicated. Behind all of these innovations was a fundamental principle: signals changing frequencies to avoid interference. The same idea Hedy Lamarr had helped create decades earlier. Millions of people use these technologies every day. Most had never heard her name. Most never imagined that a Hollywood actress had played a role in shaping the modern digital world. For years, Hedy watched from a distance as her invention influenced technologies that connected the globe. The world had underestimated her. It had focused on her appearance and ignored her intelligence. But history was finally beginning to correct that mistake. As researchers explored the origins of wireless communication, they uncovered the remarkable story hidden behind the patent. The actress, the inventor, the woman who had been decades ahead of her time. Recognition was coming. Late, but deserved. And soon, the world would finally understand that Hedy Lamarr's greatest role had never appeared on a movie screen. It had been written in science. For decades, Hedy Lamarr received no credit for her invention. The world celebrated her beauty, but ignored her brilliance. Why did recognition come so late? And how did a forgotten Hollywood star finally become a symbol of innovation? For most of her life, Hedy Lamarr lived with a painful reality. The world admired her face, but ignored her mind. Magazine covers praised her beauty. Movie studios promoted her glamour. Newspapers called her the most beautiful woman in the world. Yet almost no one talked about her invention. The patent she developed with composer George Antheil had quietly influenced modern communication systems. Military engineers used its principles. Scientists built upon its ideas. Wireless technology continued to evolve. But Hedy remained largely forgotten. Years turned into decades. And while her invention shaped the future, she received no financial reward. No royalties. No public recognition. The patent had expired long before frequency hopping technology became widely used. Others benefited from the innovation, but the woman who helped create it was rarely mentioned. As Hollywood moved on to younger stars, Hedy's life became increasingly private. She withdrew from public attention. Far from the bright lights of movie premieres, she spent much of her later years away from the spotlight. Meanwhile, the world entered the digital age. Personal computers became common. Mobile phones transformed communication. Wireless networks connected people across continents. Bluetooth devices appeared everywhere. GPS guided travelers around the world. Millions relied on technologies built upon the same principles Hedy had helped develop. Yet most people had no idea. Then, researchers and historians began revisiting the origins of wireless communication. As they traced the history of frequency hopping, they discovered an unexpected name: Hedy Lamarr, the Hollywood actress, the forgotten inventor. Suddenly, the story captured public attention. People were astonished. How could such an important contribution have been overlooked for so long? The answer revealed a difficult truth. For decades, society had underestimated women in science and technology. People assumed beauty and intelligence could not exist together. Hedy had faced stereotypes that prevented others from taking her ideas seriously. She had been judged by her appearance, instead of her abilities. But history was finally beginning to correct that mistake. In 1997, more than 50 years after receiving her patent, Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil were honored with the Electronic Frontier Foundation Pioneer Award. For the first time, her work as an inventor received major public recognition. Later that same year, she received the Bulby Nass Spirit of Achievement Award. Often called the Oscars of inventing, the world was finally acknowledging what she had accomplished. When asked about the delayed recognition, Hedy reportedly responded with quiet satisfaction. But there was also sadness. The recognition had arrived late in life. Decades after her invention had already changed the world. Still, her story inspired a new generation. Young women interested in science. Inventors. engineers, dreamers, people who had been told they did not belong. Hedy's journey became proof that brilliance can appear in unexpected places, that creativity has no boundaries, and that assumptions can hide extraordinary talent. In her later years, she remained a symbol of both innovation and resilience, not just because of what she invented, but because she refused to let others define who she could be. The actress who changed technology, the inventor history almost forgot, and the woman who proved that intelligence can shine brighter than fame. Today, billions of people use technologies connected to Hedy Lamarr's idea, but her true legacy goes far beyond Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. What can her story teach us about innovation, perseverance, and the hidden potential within ordinary people? And why does Hedy Lamarr still matter more than ever? Today, billions of people use wireless technology every single day. They connect to Wi-Fi, use Bluetooth headphones, navigate with GPS, send messages across the world in seconds. Most never stop to ask a simple question. Where did these technologies begin? The answer leads back to an unexpected place. A Hollywood actress during World War II. A woman whose intelligence was hidden behind the bright lights of fame. Hedy Lamarr never built smartphones. She never saw modern wireless networks. But the revolutionary idea she developed in 1941 became one of the foundations of secure communication. Her concept of frequency hopping transformed how information moves across the world. What began as an effort to protect Allied torpedoes eventually helped connect humanity. Her story reminds us that innovation often comes from unexpected places. Great ideas are not limited by profession, or appearance, or background. A person can be an artist and a scientist, a performer and an inventor. Creative thinking knows no boundaries. For decades, the world underestimated Hedy. People saw her beauty, but ignored her brilliance. They placed her inside a box she never belonged in. Yet she refused to let others define her potential. And in the end, history proved her right. Today, Hedy Lamarr is recognized as more than a movie star. She is celebrated as a pioneer of wireless communication, an inventor, a visionary, a woman who was decades ahead of her time. Her story has inspired countless engineers, scientists, inventors, and young women around the world. Because Hedy's greatest achievement was not just her invention. It was her determination to think differently, to stay curious, to believe that she could contribute something meaningful, even when others doubted her. In many ways, her legacy extends far beyond technology. She challenged stereotypes. She proved that intelligence and creativity can exist in unexpected places. And she reminded the world that hidden talents often change history. On January 19th, her birthday is celebrated in several countries as Inventor's Day, a fitting tribute to a woman whose ideas helped shape the modern world. Every time we connect to a wireless network, every time we use Bluetooth, every time we rely on GPS navigation, we are benefiting from a concept she helped create. A silent contribution, an invisible legacy, a reminder that some of history's greatest innovators never receive recognition when they deserve it. But true impact does not disappear. It endures. Across generations, across technologies, across the world. Hedy Lamarr passed away in 2000, but her ideas continue to connect billions of people every day. And her story continues to inspire anyone who has ever been underestimated. Because sometimes, the people the world overlooks become the people who change it forever. The world called her a Hollywood icon. History remembers her as an inventor. She was underestimated, ignored, and forgotten for decades. Yet her ideas helped build the connected world we live in today. Her name was Hedy Lamarr, the actress who helped invent the future, and her silent strength still echoes through every signal around us.